Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So just recently, for whatever reason, all kind of mess has been popping off, if you will, with this American gymnastic Olympic team. I don't know what's been going on, if something's in the water or something, but there has been so much controversy surrounding these young women. It is unrealistic. At first I was going to make one large video, but I decided to break it up into 2 or 3 videos because it just keeps going, if you will, and I think it needs to be addressed. Now, the person you're seeing on the screen right now is a young lady by the name of MyKayla Skinner. If I'm not mistaken, she is a retired gymnast, and I know some people might say that seems kind of odd because she's so young, but I actually do think that gymnasts should retire younger because putting a lot of stress on the body. Yes, people can do and they're capable, certain people, of really great things when it comes to athletics, but the older and older you get, it's a bit risky, I think. Yes, you have to use your muscles or you'll lose them, so to speak. But as you get older, the wear and tear happens. You're not as capable as you once were. I think that the chances of injury are a lot higher, so I think it is reasonable. But anyways, this young lady, if I'm not mistaken, was a medalist. She did win a silver medal, as it states here, according to this article, on the vote at the 2021 games. Now, this young lady took to the internet and she made a video. If I'm not mistaken, the video is now deleted. There are some people who still have the video on their channels that they stitched in their video, where she expressed that she felt like the current team, and I don't understand how anybody could interpret it as anybody else except for the current team, was essentially lacking in talent or didn't have depth. And I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth. This article quotes what she said, so we're going to take a look at what she said because, like I said, I don't want anybody saying that I'm putting words in her mouth. This article basically sums up what she said in that first video that basically got her a lot of backlash. She was allegedly getting death threats. Y'all know I don't support that kind of stuff, although I also support making sure you be careful what you say and how you say it. There's a right and a wrong way to do everything. Anyways, in her first video, she said, and I quote, "Besides Simone, I feel like the talent and the depth just isn't what it used to be. I mean, obviously, a lot of girls don't work as hard. The girls just don't have the work ethic," Skinner said. She went on to say, and I quote, "A lot of girls don't work as hard. It's hard to because of safe sport. Coaches can't get on athletes, which in some ways is really good, but at the same time, to get where you need to be in gymnastics, you do have to be a little aggressive, a little intense." Now, I'm not completely familiar. I'm not really at all familiar with the jargon of gymnastics because I didn't participate in gymnastics. I wanted to be an athlete growing up, but I was not endowed with those particular set of capabilities. Although what it seems to me and what this article states is that she's implying, and it says it right here, and I quote, that safe sport bars coaches from aggressive treatment of athletes, end quote. And I understand that sometimes the coaches do have to be kind of hard on the athletes to bring out the best in them. Now, I'm not, in alignment with this traumatizing these athletes to make them be better because that's toxic. Yes, like I said, they do have to work very hard, and sometimes coaches gotta, okay, I need you to do another lap because I know you're capable of it. You might not feel like it right now, but you can do it, and I need you to build that stamina, build that determination and a diligence. I do understand that, but there has to be some kind of line, so to speak. Like, we don't want anything going on of the abusive nature. We don't want any coaches abusing power. We don't want any coaches going overboard. And we certainly don't want it to turn into a situation where a coach pushed somebody too far and then something bad happened, an injury, God forbid an athlete loses their life. There are some boundaries that we do have to set when it comes to that. But she seems to have been thinking, essentially, that these coaches couldn't say anything to them, couldn't put them through the hard training because of, I guess, some new standard, if you will, where they didn't want to get in trouble for being too hard on them. They didn't want to say anything because of social media. They didn't want any heat for being tough coaches in order to make them better athletes, is what I can understand, what I've ascertained from what she was saying from that first video. She also then went on to say, not saying anything to the girls that got injured, but if I could come back, I think I would be able to do it, and I think I probably could have made that Olympic team. Now, here's the only problem that I had with that kind of statement. If that is the case, why didn't you? Why didn't she go and try out again? Why didn't she put herself back out there, get herself back up to speed, if that is the case? You can't sit back and say, oh, I don't think that they're doing as well, I don't think they have the work ethic, then imply that you do, but you sat back and you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything to help. You didn't try to get back onto the Olympic team. It's easy to sit back and nitpick or criticize. And I understand constructive criticism, but there's a line, once again, between constructive criticism and just blatant criticism, nitpicking, if you will. Now, this is where it all started to go downhill. Simone Biles decided to make a statement. She did not tag MyKayla Skinner. She just simply said, and I quote, "Not everyone needs a mic and a platform," end quote, which is very true, let's just be honest. But everybody knew who she was talking about. Now, apparently, Simone Biles and MyKayla Skinner did actually compete together on the Tokyo Olympic team, which is why I'm assuming she said besides Simone Biles, because she knew her work ethic. She had already competed with her. So at first I was thinking, well, maybe she is not that familiar with these other women, but apparently, allegedly, according to Jordan Child's mother, who spoke out on Twitter, aka X, she basically said, now wait a minute, Jordan Childs, which is her daughter, along with two of the other young women by the name of Jade Carey and Suni Lee, were all on the 2021 Olympic team as well, and they are all also were people, young ladies, on this Olympic team. So she was kind of scratching her head as to wondering, like, first of all, who you think you're talking about, I think is where this woman is coming from, because that is her daughter. Let's give her some grace, because this is her daughter that she was talking about so nonchalantly. And she was pointing out, well, first of all, if these women didn't have the talent or the depth, they would not be on the Olympic team again. And she has a point there. MyKayla Skinner got some backlash, and so she did take back to the internet to make another video, I guess, trying to clear up what she said. Now, I guess she did try to apologize, I guess. I didn't hear her say that she was sorry necessarily, but the apology, again, was one of those not apology videos. And I quote, "I know we did the recap on YouTube, and I feel like a lot of you guys had misinterpreted or misunderstood exactly what I was meaning and had said. A lot of the stuff I was talking about wasn't always necessarily about the current team, because I love and support all those girls that made it, and I'm so proud of them. It was more about going back into my own gym, and the work ethic is different compared to when we were doing gymnastics in the Martyr era. I'm not sticking up for Martyr or saying what she did was good. I'm just saying it was different. So sorry for anything that got out of context or seemed hurtful. I love those girls, and I'm seriously so happy for them. So I would never do anything to make them feel otherwise." Now, I stand corrected. She did say sorry in that video, and she did post another video, if I'm not mistaken, on Instagram, formally apologizing to the USA team. And I get it, sometimes people make mistakes, but the issue that people had with this is, well, for one, I don't think people misinterpreted what she said. She did say, oh, I feel like things are not the same as for whenever she was doing gymnastics. If I'm not mistaken, she's no longer, because she's retired. So who would that be? Who would that be insinuated to be? The women who are currently doing gymnastics. I feel like she said what she said and then kind of low-key gaslit everybody. Because again, there was really no room to misinterpret what she said. And on top of that, she did talk about the supposed, and I quote, Marta era, where I guess she was talking about she dealt with a lot emotionally, or felt like verbal abuse whenever she was learning how to be a good gymnast. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, so once again, I think you might have messed up by what you said, because you just admitted that you dealt with some stuff that you really should not have been dealing with coming from a coach. You can get this across to these athletes without verbally or emotionally tearing them down. And after she made that statement, then it made it seem like, again, not misinterpreting anything, that she felt like they were not getting torn down the way she got torn down. And once again, to show people that I'm not putting words into her mouth, and I quote, "Upon reflection, I was comparing the Marta era to the current era. I'm coming to terms that I have not fully dealt with the emotional and verbal abuse I endured under Marta that perhaps led to hurtful comments. I take full responsibility for what I said and deeply apologize." So again, it seems like she realizes what she did wrong, where she went wrong. First, it seems like you kind of just downplayed the work ethic of a bunch of women that you're not even competing with, are not competing with anymore at the time. And on top of that, she admitted that perhaps it's because, once again, these other girls are not getting roughed over, possibly verbally and emotionally abused, to be formed, if you will, molded, not to quote Bane, into these gymnasts. Once again, I don't believe it takes that. I really don't. You can get the point across without damaging people. But it almost seemed like one of those, it's like whenever you have a family and the older siblings are talking about, well, mom didn't go upside your head like how she went up mine. Almost as if, in a way, that they're mad because mama didn't go upside their heads like they did them because they were the oldest. Almost like they would have preferred for that to happen that way instead of saying, well, I'm glad mama learned her lesson and isn't doing that anymore. If that makes sense to everybody. Just a little analogy. Now, after she made that last video and everybody won their medals in the competition in the Olympics, Simone Biles took to the internet and she made this statement. If I'm not mistaken, there was a photo of them with their medals. They were all happy, and she put out this statement basically saying, and I quote, "Lack of talent, lazy Olympic champion." So basically that was her way of saying, after you said what you said, we still did very well. And this is one thing that people have to understand. This is something that also goes for content creators, YouTubers. I've said before at the beginning of this video, you must be careful what you say on these platforms, because the last thing you want to have to do is eat your words. If you're going to get up and make a statement and say that these women lack depth and talent, because that's basically exactly what she said, and then they go on to win medals, now you have to take back what you said. And I know she apologized and she said, okay, maybe I was coming out of like a mean-spirited place, etc. But still, now she still has to eat those words that she put out into the atmosphere. This is that whole thing I talk about, reaping what you sow, having to accept those consequences. Doesn't matter to the consequences. If you don't feel like you deserve what's going on, these are the consequences that you now have to deal with because of what you have done. Now, I'm not saying all of this and going into this deep of a conversation concerning this to rub it in this girl's face or to be another person and say, nana boo-boo, that's what you get, to get a lick back for Simone, etc. I'm showing people, again, how deep this consequences things go. Because there were people on there who were cheering her on for saying that. They were basically saying, now you got to eat your words. Listen, people like Simone Biles, and I know a lot of people were saying that she didn't necessarily direct the comments towards Simone Biles because she said at the beginning of the first video, besides her, although she does maintain the right to take up for her teammates, she does maintain the right to speak on their behalf. I do believe that a lot of these athletes who compete together on these teams, they have a brotherhood and a sisterhood going on because they are working very hard. Like, people don't know what it takes to be an athlete, a gymnast, an Olympic competitor. And a lot of these young people, they've shed blood, sweat, and tears with these other young people. They have a very close bond with their teammates. So if you say something offensive to them, they're not just going to shrug it off and be like, oh, well, they didn't say anything about me. No, they're going to feel a certain kind of way because of what you said about them. So that's why I'm not here for any, oh, well, why did she say anything? Because it wasn't directed at her. It was her teammates, technically, that she was saying these things about. Now, after she made this post, MyKayla Skinner blocked her on the social media platforms. Whatever, that's her choice. Now, it was after this that I guess Simone Biles' fans took to the internet. They were sending this young lady death threats, and I already told y'all that is absurd to put somebody on a pedestal. I don't care who they are, so much to the point where you're sending another person death threats who is in some kind of feud or disagreement with them. That is crazy. You are literally risking incarceration for a celebrity that you've never met, an athlete you've never met. Like, that's crazy. Now, MyKayla Skinner got back onto the internet and was basically talking about how she didn't want to have to revisit this situation, but she had to talk about it because she was being sent death threats, like I said before, that she was being cyberbullied. People were cheering for her to be cyberbullied. It was real bad. Now, she claimed that they were even targeting her family, her immediate family, like her parents, her publicist. It was pretty bad. And people were really using this time, I guess the people who supported her and her fans, they were really using this time to try and say, oh, yo, proved her point that you can't say anything to people. And I've said this before, I hate it when people chalk things up to what it's not in the situation. That's not what she was talking about. She was talking about the coaches not being able to say anything to the gymnast, which I still don't believe that that's the case, even though I'm not a gymnast. Because otherwise, I don't think you would have Olympic gymnasts competing at the level in America that we have today. And I could very well be wrong. But that's not what she was talking about. Those are two completely different situations. This has to do with her saying something that she really should not have said to begin with, that she now has to deal with the consequences of. Not that, oh, you can't say anything to anybody. Yes, you can, but it's how you say it. Once again, there's a right and a wrong way to do and say everything. And some things we just need to swallow our pride and admit don't need to be spoken about. We don't need to say anything at all about. I know it's hard to do that sometimes, but that's what we need to do. And like I said, she kept going on about how she didn't want people to think that they weren't good, that they weren't talented, and that she didn't want people to think that she thought that about them. That, she was heartbroken or whatever, that people thought that way about her, that she felt that way about them. But she was basically calling people to stop with the cyberbullying. And then she also took it a step further and was basically trying to get Simone Biles to basically stop the cyberbullying. And I thought that, I'm going to be real honest with y'all, that was absolutely ridiculous. Simone Biles did not make a public service announcement and tell her fans and the people who follow her and worship the ground she walks on to go and harass that young woman. She didn't put out a video saying, oh yeah, y'all go and attack her in the comments after what she said to my teammates or about my teammates. She never did that, at least not to my knowledge. I'm sure we're watching the same internet, are we not? There was somebody on YouTube who actually made a comment jokingly, but it's really the truth when you think about it, that she can't even get her own fans to stop calling her husband Mr. Biles. They don't even call that man by his last name. I don't actually even know his last name. I just know his name is Jonathan. She couldn't even get them to stop talking about her because of what he said in that last interview that he had not too long ago. They've been taking jabs at him ever since, let's just be honest. A lot of people, I feel like, don't think he's good enough for her. Now, I didn't say that's how I felt. If she's happy with him, then I'm happy for her. But she couldn't even get her fans and the people who call themselves supporting her to not drag her for what he said. She had to make a post saying, are y'all done? So I don't know what makes her think she's going to be able to get on social media and be like, hey guys, can y'all chill out? And they'll actually listen to her. I mean, some of them might. And I do think, in the spirit of maturity, that she should take to the internet and say, hey guys, let's not do this because it's not right and it's illegal to be, talking about you're going to delete somebody and their family because of what they said about your favorite athlete or celebrity. Like, yes, we had a little disagreement, but it's not something to threaten her or, threaten her well-being and the well-being of her family over. But so far we haven't, to my knowledge, seen another statement by Simone Biles. But at the same time, you can't put it all on her because she can't control what grown people do on the internet. Once again, she didn't tell these people to go and attack that young woman, and some of them are not going to listen even if she does say blatantly, hey, you need to stop. Because again, there are still people right now dragging her husband for filth. And we've seen it all over the internet, so we can't act like it's not the truth. Now, there have been a lot of people, like I said before, a lot of people supporting like Simone Biles, y'all. It's not just black people, it's white people too. These people love them some Simone Biles. And some of these people, they were not having it. Like, that young lady was crying in the video. I'm going to be honest, even I started to feel bad for her. But these people on YouTube, y'all, they were not here for it. They said dry up them tears with a handkerchief and then, go take a hike, basically. They were basically saying that she brought it on herself. Not that she deserved it, but that she brought it on herself. And we live in such an age of a lack of accountability and this kind of soft mentality where people cannot accept that when they have chosen to do something, once again, even if they don't deserve the consequences, those are their consequences. They have to now deal with them. Nothing you say or do will get you out of that. You just got to deal with it and do the best that you can and then learn from it. Like I said, a lot of these people weren't having it. They basically were saying, why did you say anything to begin with? You can't make that kind of statement, and then once you put it out there in the atmosphere, like I said, try to backtrack. Like, we get that you apologize and that was great, but you said what you said. Now you have to deal with the backlash. It's unfortunate. Once again, you reap what you sow. Once again, I'm going to state this because some people, they hear the voices in their head and not what people are actually saying. I am not supporting these people sending her death threats and threatening her and her family. That's wrong, obviously. And she did the right thing by calling attention to it and calling it out. Although, once again, this is something she's going to have to deal with and handle because she decided to make those initial statements that she did. Once again, nobody is saying that she deserves it, or at least none of the comments I came across blatantly said that. They're just saying accountability, accountability, and accountability. One last thing that I wanted to mention, her husband had made some kind of comment to the effect of he was proud of her for how she handled the feud, if you will, between her and Simone. And it's great, of course, that her husband is sticking up for her, standing by her side. That's what you're supposed to do concerning your spouse in these kind of conditions. Although at the same time, and I've talked about this before, I'm not saying that he shouldn't stand up for her or have her back. I feel like a lot of these young women who make statements or do things, throw rocks and hide their hand, essentially, there's always some husband enabling them. Some husband right behind them, co-signing their actions. And it really makes me wonder if he's standing up for her or having her back because it's the right thing to do, and he should because that's his wife, and I'm assuming he loves her. Or if it is one of those cases where he's kind of low-key enabling and supporting the behavior that got her into this position to begin with. Because he ain't got to do what I'm saying publicly, I guess. But privately, I would hope he's telling her, okay, baby, don't ever go back on social media and say some crazy mess like that. Ever. Okay? I would hope so. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel about this. Part 1 of the gymnastics craziness of the American Olympic team. Y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.